Cultivating Authentic Universal Energy podcast. Join us, Lisa, Miliaresis, and Michele Belcastro, as we dive into the vibrant world of energy, intuition, and spirit. Our journey through mediumship, psychic insights, Reiki, and the magic of crystals is not just about exploring the unseen. It's about connecting deeply with the universe and ourselves. Lisa is a seasoned medium and author, and she brings the wisdom of her books, being light-driven and spiritual guidance, trusting the voice within, to life. She teaches us to embrace our intuition safely and joyfully. Michele, a sensitive intuitive, and the soul behind the Violet Butterfly Metaphysical Healing Center, shares her journey from her spiritual awakening to creating a sanctuary for others to discover and nurture their spiritual gifts. Together, we're more than just co-hosts. We're guides on this adventure into universal energy, sharing our experiences and the transformative power it holds. We are thrilled to invite you to our first ever CARE retreat in Safety Harbor, Florida, this April from the 19th to the 21st. If you'd like to dive deeper with us, you can visit Lisa at tocommunicate.net and Michele at thevioletbutterflymhc.com. Let's embrace the energy together. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Michele. I hope you're doing well.
Doing great. How about yourself?
So far, so good.
Okay. So, most of the time we start our podcast by saying, oh, we've had this big conversation before we hit record. So today we decided we were just going to jump into a topic that
Michele decided we were going to jump into a topic.
and Lisa is uncomfortable with said topic. So this is kind of exciting, not because you're uncomfortable, but because I think we're going to get some good stuff here.
Okay.
All right. So you sent me a Ho'oponopono throat chakra meditation the other day, and that got us talking about your throat chakra when you do gallery readings specifically. So,
Right. Well, and I do find that I calibrate or I elevate my energy level through a practice of prayer and meditation. And many times in the beginning, and as you mentioned, even during, I have to clear my throat.
so Lisa, that felt like a preemptive strike.
What do you mean?
This is just a conversation. It's not an inquisition.
All right. I just dropped something. One second. Okay.
All right. So it was just an observation on my part. And what I think is interesting is that I don't think there's ever been a time when I've heard you read that you don't have like a frog in your throat or a need to clear your throat. And a part of our discussion, which I think is really interesting and important, is that you mentioned that you don't just recalibrate your energy once, that you raise your vibration, spirit slows theirs down so that you can come into that meeting place where there's communication.
Yes.
But spirit, they're all individual. And I'm assuming they all have their own vibrations. And that is kind of the crux of our conversation, is that
well, if you have to think about it, that even when we speak to other people here on Earth, they're all different vibrations, and they're all coming at different levels, and you're trying to meet them or meet spirit in a place where you can make that connection. And not all spirits or people are at the same vibration. So I do have assistance of guides and other entities that we can call them angels, whatever you may label them, that will help with that vibration. But there are times when I need to level it up so I can reach it. Not everybody's a good communicator. Even those on the other side have been sometimes very poor communicators. And they, more than likely, they were poor communicators in life. But when I was younger, I used to have to do it through breath a lot. And I can only relate it to, I would have to take a deep breath with almost each energy that was there. But
Okay.
as you get more accustomed to it, you can do it a little bit easier. And maybe I just need to get even more accustomed to it so I don't choke on my throat.
So much of what we do is about perspective, right? And we get so used to our own perspective that sometimes just somebody pointing out their perspective is enough for us to go, maybe I need to look at that.
Okay, I'll look at it. What do you got?
Not, not, and it's not good. It's not bad. It's just, it's no different than, when we had our retreat, you asked me about a particular incident that you noticed. I could get upset about it, or I could say, yes, that is exactly the way I reacted, and this is why.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're not partnered together because we're alike. We are partnered together because we are very different.
Okay.
And I think that's the beauty of what we do when we come together.
Yeah, and I also think it's a bonus because there's so many of us that are different in this world, and it's a bonus if we can focus when we're trying to come together to focus on our similarities rather than our differences.
Hmm.
I do know that you say that, yeah, we do learn from our contrast, very,
Yeah,
very true. We do, but we don't stay there. We move forward and then we go into what is similar to how we can move through and flow through that. But I do
absolutely.
believe that the meditation I sent you, which was about clearing the past areas of our lives that we felt that we couldn't speak our truth, and they may have formed blocks. And I think we both have had that in our experience.
Hmm.
You're growing up as sensitive. I'm also sensitive, but also growing up with that awareness that their loved ones continue and told you can't speak your truth. And I think that does hold blocks. I do love this woman's work. Her name is Sandra Rolas, and she was up on YouTube. So I had forwarded that to Michelle, which kind of is the beginning of part of this conversation that we're having now. But I think it transcends to everybody. They can think of times when they couldn't be their authentic self. They can't speak their authentic truth for whatever reason.
Absolutely. And we've talked about that, that sometimes it's difficult to be our authentic selves because of the way we've been influenced from the time we were born.
Right. And then if we notice that it's coming back again, that you're getting those sensations and triggers, is it something that needs to be just observed and say, do we need this anymore? Is this really what's happening now? Or is it just a memory from the past that just needs to be cleared away and kind
Mhm.
of like wash through the river in the brook, let it go away, and now readjust to what is new and normal and
Mhm.
see what needs to be, adjusted to from this point forward? Because we're not
Right.
the same as we were before.
No, absolutely not. We're not the same as we were 20 years ago, or, you know, maybe 2 weeks ago.
But it is a good reminder though, okay, yeah, I was stifled. Maybe I suppressed that. Maybe I didn't address it at the time. And maybe now is a good time to just acknowledge it so it can be released.
Hmm.
But that's why I like that meditation because it does help with that.
Absolutely. I was multitasking when I was listening to it, because, well, it's
Well,
kind
you
of
have a
where
lot
I'm at right
to do.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. I did it about 3 times
Mhm.
since I sent it to you. And I also sent it to our mutual friend, Barb. So I thought
Okay.
she might like it as well.
Did you get any kind of feedback from her?
No, I
No?
don't know if she did it.
Yeah, I know that her meditation practice is different than um listening to stuff at times. So,
But I mean, like, we could even look at our individual conflicts and then, that we have within ourselves, within our throat,
mhm.
whatever heart, whatever it may be, And then we can look at it on a global level. There's so many conflicts going on in the world today. I mean, can't people just like get along and just like focus on what's positive and what they have in common, instead of all the things that are different?
Absolutely. That could be such a big conversation there. But if we can't figure out how to find that peace within ourselves and maybe even within a small group of people, it's difficult to,
Yeah.
think about
Yeah,
even that much bigger.
I know. Yeah, that's just me getting deep.
But it no, it totally makes sense.
But that's how I've always thought, even as a kid, and now through even when I got married, because I married a man who's a different faith and a different culture, and there's many obstacles, involved with that. And my thought process, even we've been married, gosh, about 43 years now. My thought process back then was, well, it doesn't make sense to break up because you're different. You should just focus on what you have in common. And if you start to think about that, our cultures were more in common than they were different.
Mm, okay. Hmm. Sometimes I think that we end up with people because of the differences, not always the similarities, right? Whether it's friends or
Mhm.
spouses or, you know.
Well, law of attraction will bring us together for what is, of our highest good, right? So
Hmm.
I do think that my husband is my best teacher because he triggers me in some ways that I need to look at things differently. It's, you find the people that in your family, that you're with.
Oh, absolutely. Family is a big trigger, and they are also the ones that our throat chakra has sometimes the hardest time with.
Mm. I'm fortunate that, we have one sibling that's on the other side, but I'm fortunate that I really get along really well with my siblings. But I think that in every family there's different, and I think possibly that's why we get along so well, is because we have had loss
Hmm.
and we
Oh,
don't want to, you have that, bring that awareness of life is short.
yeah. Ooh, that brings up a question. You may or may not answer this. How are your siblings with your communication gifts?
I love them so much. They're good. I mean, my sister's always been my protector. She's 8 years younger than I am.
Okay.
So she was the one that came with me when I would do my initial group sessions. I was afraid to do anything, and my sister would come with me. So I'm going to someone's house or whatever it was, just to make sure that I was safe. So she's always been very supportive. She didn't always understand it, and she didn't do it. Um, but she recently said to me that through observing me and seeing how it's helped some of her friends as well, it's given her a better perspective and it's helped her along the way. And even though we don't always see eye to eye on things, I know that if I ever needed anybody, they're right there in my corner, both of my siblings and the one on the other side as well. Now, my brother, he is, a man of science, a doctor, very great, but he also is open minded enough to say it's a possibility. So, in that respect, they're supportive with me.
Hmm.
And, he doesn't deny it. And even my dad, who recently transitioned, and you talk about, um, he's a chemical engineer all his life. So, his mindset was, strictly science, this, that, and the other. And when I'd start to talk to him about it when I was younger, he was like, "Well, can we talk about the weather? Because I really can't understand this." And then recently, recently before he passed, we were having conversation because I knew he was sick and I didn't want him to be afraid. And he wasn't. He was good. He says, "I can't say you're not telling the truth." So like his mindset was like, "I can't prove it, but I can't disprove it. So therefore it's possible."
Nice.
Because that's how his
Nice.
mind worked. And my mom was always on board. So, how about with your family?
Um, So my family has kind of embraced my intuitiveness and my sensitivity, um, primarily with the way I interact with animals. That's kind of been more or less my in. Um, for the most part, my family doesn't really understand what it means to kind of like be on a spiritual path. Um, my mom asked me a lot of questions. Um, Actually, what was really interesting is just recently my older brother came into the shop and said to me, "Hey, I've been collecting rocks my entire life." And he bought a crystal to wear around his neck. And he came in like the next day afterwards. He's like, "I've never slept so good."
Oh,
So
jeez.
I
Sometimes you just have to live your best life and let them see by your positive results, you know?
exactly, my family communication and my family life isn't, you know, great. I have a sibling who refuses to speak to me because I provided my intuitive insight at one point and they didn't like it.
No,
So,
I'm sorry.
you know what? It is what it is.
Mhm.
Um but you know what I think is really interesting is that it seems like, a couple of years ago my dad transitioned, and he was always a big advocate of mine here in the physical plane, but he's even more so now, like in a
Mhm.
way that is really interesting. So I don't know whether I was able to show him some kind of an example here that, you know, on the other side he could better appreciate.
We don't always know how that works out and who's the teacher and who's the student, so to speak,
Sure.
because we don't know the contracts that were made before we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always talk about my dad, who, parts of my life he wasn't existent. And I always said he was emotionally inept at times because he was extremely smart and he was very good in some areas. In other areas of family, he was not. But yet, at the time of his transition, I witnessed how very evolved he really was. Many people on a spiritual path, who believe that death is just a part of life and that we will all, that's one thing that's guaranteed, we're all going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever wants to suffer through their transition, but I look at it like it's a birthing process. Birth is not fun. Nobody wants to go through that. But then once they're alive and they're born, it's a beautiful thing. You love the baby. You forget about the discomfort. I
Mm-hmm.
think the same thing happens on the transition end of it. Once you're there, you forget about the discomfort. There's only love that's there, and you live your afterlife. Now, with dad, it was like on a Thursday, he called us all up and he told us he was proud of us and that he basically didn't want to be here anymore. He was starting to get uncomfortable and he didn't want to have that happen anymore. By Monday, he transitioned. I'm like, Dad, I don't know if you know how many spiritual people would love to be able to do that, to not have it linger, to kind of like say, okay, peace out, I'm gone, and then have a peaceful transition. But, so we don't know the contracts that were made before entering this life. What was mom supposed to be like? What was her life path? Was she supposed to get divorced? Was she supposed to have another marriage? Were you supposed to have 3 siblings, 4 siblings, I do believe that there's a portion of our lives that are predestined, and then we live them according to our free will,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can have these lessons on earth. But again, a little deep. But
Well, we're not here, you and I, to be what I call surface dwellers. We're on our path
okay.
to do the things that we do, and it's not to be unaware.
Yeah. So yeah, energy's thick right now. And I think it's thick collectively and individually. So if we can find our authentic voice, even if it's recognizing where we haven't been or we've been suppressed, and
Mhm.
see, okay, that's good to know. What do I need today? What do I not need today? And then kind of regroup and move forward in a positive way.
So I'm kind of thinking that there might be some people that have difficulty with their authentic voice. And I mean, we all do at different times, right? But maybe if you're having a hard time with it, you can find someone who can be a good sounding board for you, who won't take things personally. And I don't mean you, this is a much bigger you than just you and I. But if someone is having a hard time, maybe you have a trusted friend that you can practice having that authentic voice with, and see what happens, because authenticity isn't mean or angry. I mean, sometimes things will come across that way, but we need people to practice on, and we're not always really great to practice on ourselves, right?
No, I don't think we are great to practice on ourselves. What has helped me in the past is to look at things from another perspective, and almost as if it's not me looking at it. And I don't know if that's in anyone else's wheelhouse or if that's what they would like to do. It's just something that has worked for me. If I would, pretend I was a bird or pretend I was somewhere else, looking down on myself, the situation, what was said. 9 times out of 10, I wish I had said something else. So it's like, at the time that you're having conversations with people, you're so quickly that you're thinking that you don't have a chance to say, oh, this would have been better or that would have been better. But again, what helps me is just looking at it from a neutral perspective, not necessarily from the vantage point of myself. To your point, yes, it's great to have a sounding board. And I have found sometimes it's not always a human sounding board. Sometimes it's a pet.
Yeah, just to be able to literally speak. Because,
Yeah.
there are times that I've spent, journaling things. But as good as that is, it's not using your throat chakra, right?
Hmm.
It's not actually speaking the things that you need to speak.
Right. Shower time's the best. People sing in the shower. Some people have conversations in the shower. It goes down the drain. No one has to know it's been said. You kind of get your thoughts together. You regroup your balance.
So that's an important point. You were talking about looking at things from a different perspective, and, kind of analyzing to a certain degree the things that you've said. Um, Hopefully that is without any kind of like real criticism. Um, but the idea is that when we're communicating, we're listening, right? And we don't have to respond right away to someone that we're communicating with. If you get caught up in that, then you're reacting and not responding.
True. Very true. Good point.
So
Yeah.
I, and I've said this before, there are times that people come in the shop and they want me to do something for them. They want me to sell their goods. They want something, right? And many times in the past, I would have said yes because I'm a yes person. I switched that up and I said, I would tell people, okay, I need to put this on my altar for 3 days. Now, in a conversation, that's a long break, but this is exaggerated to give me the opportunity to determine, is this really a yes or is this a no? It's helped me a lot because then I don't have to backpedal and say, oh, wait, I changed my mind. If you can give yourself time to really respond in any given circumstance and listen to what that inner guidance is, then maybe you don't have to go back and be like, yeah, this isn't working for
That's
me.
100% true and good point. But I think in the corporate environment, which we both were in,
Mm-hmm.
that was not an option a lot of times, but it was an option with email. A lot of people will get the email. You don't have to be a first responder and get back right away. You can, I think there's like an etiquette of 24 hours at least, but there's, you can take your time to process and think before you speak or before you write. And that's a gift.
Yeah. Well, and I also kind of even in the corporate world enforced a certain amount of boundaries when it came to communication. If I wasn't really sure about how the appropriate way was to respond.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes you have no choice but to tell your boss yes and figure it out. But there's a lot of times when your inner authentic voice can really be heard.
Yeah, sometimes there's little creative ways to take care of that too.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need the time to process, to think
Oh,
about it.
100%.
Meanwhile, I'll continue to probably clear my throat during each and every broadcast or each and every channeling session that I do. I also think that's partly the vibration of reaching different levels when I do channel, with that clears. It's something that happens automatically, so I have to go with it. I did notice that if you listen to Esther Hicks initially, when she first started to do the channeling years ago, her voice sounded different than it does today when she does it. I
Yep.
think there was an adjustment period with vibration and energy with that. She almost didn't sound like herself initially. She
Oh,
sounded,
she absolutely did not. No.
yeah.
I
So there's something that may be energetic about that. Who knows? I mean, she's giving it all over. But it's not harmful. It doesn't hurt. It's just a thing.
All right. Awesome.
Any cards? Do you have cards today? I just dropped mine.
You dropped them. I haven't even
Oh,
pulled
hold on a
any
sec.
decks out. It's
I
funny. They
dropped
have.
two. Let me see what they said because they fell out for a reason. One sec.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay. So the two that I dropped was Release, Archangel Azrael. And it says the end of a phase or situation, spiritual transformation, time to move on. So it's kind of like you recognize what was blocking you before, you clear it up, it was the end of a phase, and you move on. I'll take that. But then I get the Lover's card, which is also very nice. And that's
Mhm.
Archangel Raphael. And it says intimate relationship, carefully weigh your decisions, and good health. I'll take that. I love that good health card. And
Nice.
love is always healing.
So while you were doing that, I just grabbed a deck and it's The Universe Has Your Back, this deck here. Um, and two
That's a
cards
pretty
came
deck.
out. It has a dragonfly on it and it says, I always trust the direction of the universe and know I'm being guided.
Oh,
So
nice.
a nice validation there. And then the second one is there is a stream of love supporting my dreams.
That really does compliment the two that I've dropped out.
Exactly.
Why do I always get surprised?
Well, and like as you were saying, explaining your first one, I'm like reading, looking at these going, what?
Why does it?
Yeah, we really shouldn't be surprised at any of this, but
I don't get surprised, but I just enjoy it so much that I'm still surprised.
exactly. Now, I mean, I don't know. I don't always want to expect such amazing validations and synchronicities. I like the surprise.
I appreciate them though.
Yep. So,
Yeah,
really,
I do find because it's helpful.
yeah, something really interesting, talking about like new phases. There was a point in time when I heard or I saw angel numbers like everywhere. And I would say in the last 6 or so months, I had stopped seeing them. They have started showing up all over again.
Do you think I do? Okay, back up. I
Yep,
think it's encouragement when you're walking through different things that they will come and give you those signs because they know that you need them. Probably when you had a lapse, you didn't need them anymore,
maybe.
or you needed to marinate on what was already given.
Oh gosh, there's been an awful lot of that.
I mean, I used to find that I'd have a lot of great experiences and spirit would be teaching me or guiding me and speaking in my ears. And then it would stop for 6 months to 9 months. I'm like, well, maybe it went away. But I think they just give you a time to process what it is that you've been taught, and then they give you more.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about you
Uh-oh.
as we had, yes, as we were talking about um, along your journey, you have felt that sometimes you were stifled with, being an empath. And I offer a counseling session, and I think you should offer something similar to empaths, because what I offer is for people who are on their intuitive path and they're having, whatever um, they're experiencing, that I can relate to them and I can assist them intuitively along their guidance. I
Mhm.
think that might be a nice offering for you to offer to your clientele, in the idea of what you've been experiencing as an empath, as an intuitive empath going on your practice. So we all have experience. And if we can take our powers and use them for good, we take our powers that we have and we use them to help other people. I'm pretty sure, I know I have all along my journey came across, a person or two that's been very helpful to me. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like a pay it forward kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure if you think about it, there's been people in your path that have been helpful to you, whether they be animals or whether they be, a guided teacher of some sort or another, or just an acquaintance that you meet that's just kind of like intuitively gives you that guidance. So, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
So that is a great validation of some of the things that are already kind of in the works.
Cool. Cool. Very good.
Yay. Yeah. With my transition out of the physical space of the violet butterfly, it's going to open up a lot of my time once I get things shifted, that I can reach more people and provide,
Right.
more services myself, which is a very exciting um, opportunity.
Yeah, it sure is. It is.
Mhm.
And then once you start and it feels right to you, you always say when the teacher shows up, but maybe you're the teacher, maybe the student shows up, So as soon as you put it out there, there's always somebody that's attracted to it that it will
Yeah,
be benefit for.
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, I look forward to getting back to my blog and being able to get some of my life experience out there, because I think when people read about what any of us has gone through and it resonates, you know they know that they're not alone, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I think so too. That's basically when I wrote my first book, why I thought it was important. I wasn't intending for it to be a book, but as it became and evolved into a book through spirit guidance, it's for the children or the young people or the older people, who are going through what I went through, where you're seeing spirit, you're hearing spirit, you sense things, but you're excited about it, you have a knowing with it, but you don't actually understand it fully. You
Mhm.
probably never will, but you have to be able to follow that guidance, and follow those crumbs and do it in a way that's comfortable for you. This is the key, to do it in a way that you can still live your life here amongst society in a balanced way.
Mhm.
It's one thing to understand it, and then it's another thing to integrate it and to be able to move forward in your work life, in your family life, and still be true to yourself. That I think is the hardest part of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't really have the option of going up to a mountaintop and living in a cave to develop our abilities, whatever they are. We are householders. We have lives, and how do we find that balance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was a good conversation to have.
Conversations.
And good validations on the cards.
Absolutely.
So we'll look for some new fun things in the future.
Absolutely. Yep.
So do you have anything else to add on the subject?
I don't, other than, notice when you go to speak, especially something that's your authentic truth. How does your throat feel? Does it feel open? Does it feel like it's constricted? Do you feel like you have to clear your throat? And don't judge any of that as good or bad. Just
Right.
notice it and see where do you fall on that I'm being authentic scale.
Very phlegmy. I'm going to put in the bottom of the podcast notes, I'll put that link to the meditation I was referencing in the beginning.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you, Michele. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear from you about your experiences. Leave us a comment below. You can find more information about Lisa and her offerings on her website, 2communicate.net. Michelle's shop is the Violet Butterfly Metaphysical Healing Center in Palm Harbor, Florida. You can find more information at thevioletbutterflymhc.com, including the online store.